Hello, sumo fans.
We're back.
January tournament, not what anyone expected.
Like we thought. You weren't going to be able to predict, but it was even worse than that because it was like, no. I could have just thrown names at a wall and had better luck than trying to predict.
It came in phases. We'll get more into this as things unfold. We were going to do our Monday midweek roundup, but halfway through the tournament, it sounded like there was no point because on day 8, it looked like, this is a done deal. And then all the drama happened in the second act. And, well, in any case...
Where we're at, I mean, the result ended up being what we thought it would be, but just not the way we thought it would be.
Yes, congratulations to Daieisho, who it was 8-0, and we're like, we don't really need to do... He's going to Hakuho it. We don't really need to go into a different video. And then he sort of made it a race, and then took it back for himself.
Yeah, very, very strange. But I want to say congratulations to John, even though it's a tournament late. Daieisho was your dark horse pick in September?
September.
So you were on to something.
I was a little too late. I knew he had the fire, but I just took a little while to get up there. We'll talk, lots to say about Daieisho, but we will start as we always do at the top with Hakuho, with a astounding record of COVID. A lot of people, and this is sort of the undercurrent wrench in everything that we had coming into the January tournament, which is a large number of Rikishi, including at least a dozen in the top 2 divisions, were benched because either they tested positive for the coronavirus or somebody in their Heia did. Hakuho himself got the COVIDs. He's fine now, but he had to sit the tournament out. And we were expecting him to come back in January with a vengeance
and destroy everybody.
So now that execution sentence has been deferred.
And he might be angrier than he was going to be in January, but to be determined.
So March, I'm already looking forward to March. Like I was going to already, but now I'm imagining like when people get mad in old cartoons and they have like steam coming out of their ears.
That's Hakuho right now.
That is Hakuho right now. Just aching.
He's going to be knocking on Daieisho's door in the middle of the night. Hey, you want to fight?
Yes. As is his custom, he will call out anybody who's not him who wins the tournament. He calls them out and then thrashes them. Yes.
If anybody's a new sumo listener, before COVID, Hakuho used to just show up at your stable and be like, hi, I'm here. You want to fight? And thrash you around, leave, and then you usually had trouble in the next tournament. He's not been able to do that lately, but with the practice tournament, which he destroyed Takakeisho, was very sad, and Asanoyama, he was able to kind of do it. So, I expect it. I expect him to come back. I expect him to fight Zensho Yusho, but, that could also be in my dreams, because every time we think something, it just disappears.
It's a bit of chaos these days. So, Hakuho, on notice, but definitely, if he was here, he would have smashed.
He would have. And this tournament would not look the way it does. It's amazing how one guy determines what kind of tournament you're going to have.
Mm-hmm. Next up is Kakuryu, who's probably the only person who started the tournament out not because of COVID. He was too injured to fight, and that's sort of been this song and dance that's been going on for some time now with Kakuryu, that he's just like, next one I'm going to go, I'm good to go, and then the conversation slides, he walks it back, he's just like, haven't been really sparring, we'll see, and then he pulls out.
And it's usually like a day before, so he doesn't even tell you like 2 weeks in advance. He's like, I'll let you know. And it's feeling a little familiar. It's feeling a little bit like the Kiseno Sato situation. And anybody who was watching back then saw that when he finally came back, he went like 0-4, and it's like, this is done. So Kakuryu, it's up in the air. Is he going to even compete at all? I assume he will, simply to do one final Yokozuna entering ceremony. But we will see what's going on in the Don's head.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. It's also going to be interesting to see what the Yokozuna Deliberation Council says, because coming into January, they issued a warning to both of the Yokozunas to get their game up, and Kakuryu responded to this warning by pulling out. Will they issue a second warning? Are they going to say January was chaos, never mind? Are they going to ask him to retire? That's going to be interesting drama that will play out.
And what's really interesting is the Japanese can be so strict, but at the same time, they're not going to walk in and say, you have to retire. It's going to be strongly worded. And the question is, does Kakuryu care? It seems like Hakuho especially, but maybe Kakuryu too, they get it. They get the Japanese custom, but they're like, make me. It's almost like they're daring them to, no, you make the call, not me. So I think Kakuryu has until he finally says, I'm done. No matter how many warning letters they throw at him.
Yeah, the drama will continue.
Oh, the drama. Somebody might, drop a really strongly lettered word at midnight at his heya,
Stern one.
With really dark letters on it.
Unfortunately, another no Kozuna, as they say. But that may change one way or the other.
Yes.
With the coming of the fresh blood. But unfortunately, coming to Ozeki 1 East Takakeisho, with his 2-8-5 record, his Yokozuna bid is going to be reset. He is now in Kadoban. He formally pulled out due to a claimed ankle injury. It seemed from the viewing audience that he had a mental issue going on. Maybe he was actually injured. He didn't have any wrappings on the ankle. That doesn't mean it wasn't injured. But usually you can sort of tell the dark warnings because there'll be some bandages on whatever appendage is causing problems.
Or you would see some sort of limping, and I didn't see any limping, but I could see right off the bat the power was gone. And we've seen this from Takakeisho before. I don't know when those things happen, if it's purely physical or if it's mental or if it's both. He went from being like the powerhouse in November, just 2 pushes and you're out, to like barely being able to push somebody back. And, this is the Takakeisho roller coaster that you're going to ride as a fan of Takakeisho.
Unfortunately.
I love him. I'm never getting off the train until his career is over, but it's not a given. You look at some of these guys and it's like, oh, he's Yokozuna material. He's just got a da-da-da-da. I don't know what Takakeisho needs to do. I know he's never going to give up. And he's made it all the way to Ozeki. And all he can do at this point is go forward. He can't say, he doesn't have anything else to shoot for. So if he's got limitations or things to work out, he's just got to do it. Because once you hit this rank, like, that's where you're at. There's nowhere else to go. So shooting straight up like he did, a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, my take on it is there's too much stress on him all at once, and I'm almost curious if he had some sort of an injury or some sort of a physical issue that he sort of tried to stick it out because he was the top dog, and now more than ever, there would be a pressure on the wrestlers to perform when they're at lower strength, when you're hearing news that the sumo in general is suffering, you got to bring the product, everybody's so desperate to do something, there's like the morale of the country, there's all these factors going in. Yes. My guess is it's sort of all laid on Takakeisho's shoulders, and he just couldn't parse it out.
I think that sounds very reasonable, especially because, Hakuho was out with COVID, and COVID is like the elephant in the room, and it's the demoralizer for everybody. And knowing how Takakeisho is, he would take it very personally that he's got to be the guy, because he was the top-ranked guy for this tournament. He's got to be the guy to step in, and he just wasn't ready, whether it was physical or mental or both. He wasn't ready. And I'm really hoping that he just regroups, forget about it, start March all over again. I'm not worried about when he becomes Yokozuna. He's young. He's got time. No big deal. It's not a Mitakeumi situation.
It is worth noting that when we were discussing the Yokozuna, that we sort of almost didn't want him to get it too soon. And we wanted him to sort of work out some of these physical and mental issues that were happening. We didn't want this to happen.
No, I just...
But, so, like, the silver lining, like you said, is that he still has plenty of time to get there. And the hope is that if he takes a little longer to get it together, that once he reaches the big white belt, that he'll be sort of a stronger product.
Right, he would have gone through his struggles and come out on the other side. But, you know, I have to say, and we'll get into it with Shodai and Asanoyama, the way Japan has this or the Japanese Sumo Association has this structured, we constantly get this safe kadoban, safe kadoban, safe kadoban. I really think they should look at the system. I understand that they don't want anybody cheating it like the Yokozunas obviously are. But I think they need 2 tournaments or something, because it's a little ridiculous. You have one off tournament, all of a sudden you're in threat for demotion. It's kind of wearing on the audience, I think. You know, maybe everyone else doesn't care, but it wears on me, whether it's Takakeisho or anybody else.
This is something that has come up. Just the way that the Ozeki system works. And I honestly don't have a good recommendation for how to fix it. So it's sort of like, well, if you don't have an answer, why are you bringing the problem up?
That's pretty much where we're at.
But I mean, there is a problem here. So maybe that'll be my homework. Try to figure out a way to fix this.
Yeah,
do
some math. I don't know.
I'll send Chairman Hakaku an email. I'm a big fan. I've got some ideas for the way that your system for hundreds of years have worked. Tell me what you think. Anyway, so still on Ozekis. Shodai, Ozeki 1 West, who was 11-4 and was in Yusho contention for some time. Very strong on paper, like removed from the hype. He did very well. He cleared his kadoban. His ankle injury had no issues, and a lot of the things that were strong before remain strong. His very, what I have called anti-physics Tachiai, where you'll have these huge, massive forces just go into his chest, and then he just calmly stands up and throws people aside. A lot of his wins, this is both to his credit and to his detriment, a lot of these like last second, on the edge, ring sense, throwing people at the ropes kind of matches shows that he still has the ability to perform under large amounts of pressure. May or may not be Ozeki level sumo. I say a win's a win. He was pretty close to getting it. Daieisho was driving the whole thing, but Daieisho drove off the road a couple of times, which sort of put Shodai in it for a little bit. I don't know if it's really worth getting into the sketchy judge calls. I was thinking about this when we were talking about this with Adam. He's just like, sketchy judge calls is part of any sport.
Any sport.
So like I had a whole tirade planned, but over a couple of days, I'm like,
well, when it's fresh and in the moment, you just want to rail. It's like, what are you? That's awful. This impacted the whole race. But then at the end, you're like, well, a hair pull here, a toe out here, it all evens out. Speaking of physics, you know, it's just sort of the physics of winning and losing. Yeah, I mean, you could talk about it, but the reality is what you said before is true. Daieisho drove this the entire time. He was in charge of whether Shodai was going to get in or not Shodai. And that's not the greatest position to be in as an Ozeki if you want to win. In the end, you know, he's 11-4. Everything's great. But I'm pretty sure he would have liked to have won again. I'm pretty sure he would have liked to have had a match on the final day to determine it. So, he's got some things to work on, but, you know, they're personality things. So it really comes down to how badly does he want it? How badly does he want Yokozuna? Maybe he doesn't know, because I don't know that he planned to be Ozeki the way it turned out.
That's quite possible, honestly. He has cleared Kadoban, so the good news for Shodai is now he can start building his Ozeki existence.
And he's very interesting because I think he does have the tools to win consistently. And that's something that the Ozeki have not had in several years, at least since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Goeido and Takayasu, they really set a standard for subpar Ozeki, you know, performance. They were the first ones in the constant Kadoban roller coaster, and they weren't winning tournaments. So, you know, Shodai, he's at least got the fact that I believe he can win every time. He might do something weird, like what happened when he bumped into the judge on the last day, and that'll cost him. But I don't think to myself he's going to have a Takakeisho performance. As much as I love Takakeisho, those types of performances are always possible with him. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that with Shodai. I think he could just keep winning. Is it Ozeki-style sumo? I don't know. But like you said, a win's a win.
A win's a win. At least he's not hanking.
Yeah. If he was hanking, then I'd be down on him. But I'm not down on Shodai. I think he has a very interesting personality for sumo. And he's character. And I could see him being Yokozuna. We will see.
Next up, speaking of people who may be Yokozuna, Asanoyama, who is Ozeki 2 East, also 11-4. What's interesting is that both Shodai and Asanoyama came out with the same score, but how they got there was a completely different road. So Shodai was biting at the heels of the Yusho basically all the way to the last day. Asanoyama was out of it pretty early, and all 3 of his 4 losses came within the first week. This goes into Asanoyama's his tendency to sort of need to warm up. And like second week, Asanoyama was that Ozeki level material that everybody loves to see. It was powerful, dominant, crisp.
Yes.
That's that crispness, the way that he exerts his dominance. That's something that Shodai doesn't seem to always have, and Takakeisho either has in spades or doesn't have at all.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he needs that first few days to get the things sorted out. And like if he can get that first 4 to 6 day window sorted, Asanoyama is going places.
Yeah, he's a very interesting wrestler because you look at him and you know he has it all. He's got the technique. He's got the body. He's not prone to injury. He's kind of like looking at the creme de la creme. And yet he has this warm-up issue. And other mental issues with his sumo. It's an interesting thing, you know. It could be small tweaks and all of a sudden he's a machine and he's the next Hakuho. Mm-hmm. He's got the ability to be. But then, what if the tweaks never happen? I'm one of those people who's a little down on him, and not because I want to be, because I don't like the pressure that gets put on these guys. Like, you need to be the next great Japanese Yokozuna. It's not down like that. It's more of, I'm just down on the idea that he is the next great hope. If that could just go away, maybe he could be. Like, if the stigma was gone, maybe he could be. It'd be nice if it could be a little more natural. Shodai is a little bit more natural in that nobody was thinking about Shodai as the next great hope. So, I just like the reputation to sort of disappear, maybe focus on some other people, and then all of a sudden he could shoot up and do his thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, Asanoyama will probably be top Ozeki next tournament.
Yeah.
And with Takakeisho taking a tumble, everybody's eyes is going to be on Asanoyama. But for somebody to steal the spotlight and give Asanoyama a break, we go to Sekiwaki 1 East with Terunofuji, who is also 11-4. Similar to Asanoyama, he wasn't in the tournament race, but he ended up with double-digit wins and looking really good.
He is, I mean, some people have issues with him because he's got a little bit of the Hakuho cockiness. But let's throw that aside. He is an exciting wrestler to watch. You look at him and you're like, he should be Yokozuna. If he didn't have knee issues and the health issues that he had, like diabetes and stuff, he would have been Yokozuna. He would have been competing with Hakuho. We wouldn't see what Hakuho ended up with, because I think Terunofuji would have taken some off of him. Here's a very different wrestler who's had to make adjustments because of the knees, and he's dominant, and he has that that aura in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I look at him and I think, why aren't you Ozeki yet? And I think Asanoyama will fade in the background if Terunofuji keeps going, because he's really the guy to watch. He's got kind of a clock that's ticking. How many more matches does he have in him? So let's hurry up and try to do this Yokozuna thing. And I think his head's at that. I know he's going for Ozeki, but he seems like the type that's thinking, what happens after that?
He's not going to be satisfied.
No.
It was worth mentioning that he was now that he's at the absolute top, now that he's fighting the best of the best, you can sort of start to see some of the cracks in the armor. Some people, again, when you're all the way at the top, these are the people who are going to be able to figure out how to get around the unstoppable grip machine. That being said, he's still got 11 wins in what was a very, very tough upper rank fighting.
Yes, and, you know, one of his vulnerability is pusher thrusters, actually. If he gets pushed back, it's hard, because it's such a quick impact. If somebody gets him on the tachi with a good push, it's hard for him because of his knees. I mean, he could fight it, but there's got to be something in the back of his mind, like, is it worth it to shoot out my knees in this one match, or just start over the next day? So that's one of his major vulnerabilities, and maybe Terunofuji, the Yokozuna, he just doesn't care anymore because he's reached the top.
Mm-hmm.
So,
maybe.
Unrestrained Terunofuji might look a little different, but hard to say.
Yeah, he will be in contention for Ozeki next tournament. Something to look forward to for March.
10 wins? How many wins does he need?
On paper, he will need 10 or 11.
Okay.
Because he got 12 in January. He got 12 in November. He got 11 in January.
Okay.
And you can consider his November tournament championship caliber performance because he was in the playoff.
Right.
And he beat Takakeisho once while in the playoff. Now, that being said, if he wins in March,
right,
he's gonna
give it to him.
He's gonna get it. More to come on that, but definitely power and technique on display as it has been since he won it in 17 East.
And we've missed that since Tochinoshin has fallen. He's kind of replacing that hole, which is good.
It's good. Yeah. So next up, Sekigaki won West, Takanosho 9-6 with all of the fireworks going on. His 9-6 is very quiet. It's almost forgotten. And it's worth noticing that this guy has been in Sanyaku for 2 tournaments now with winning records. And his sumo is strong, it's fearless, and now that the consistency is starting to dial in, I mean, nobody can last forever at the top like this, but he's showing that maybe he will.
Yeah, that silent approach is a good one because it's like people aren't necessarily noticing what he's doing, but he's getting the experience while he's doing it. Winning at the top is something that's hard to do in terms of, like, you know, you'll see some of these guys who are Margashira 1 who then get clobbered and go all the way down, then come back up, and you sort of tool around in the middle. Takanosho's getting all this experience up at the top, fighting the tough guys, fighting the top guys, seeing what they have to offer. And he's got Takakeisho as a training partner. And there's a little bit of, like, mental strategy they can share with each other. And they don't have to face each other. So there's one top guy he doesn't even have to face. So unless he sustains an injury, I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Because if he can just stay healthy and stay consistent, he could wear out some of these other guys and just take one of their spots.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, it's 9 wins, hard to build an Ozeki run off of that. But give him 1 or 2 more wins in the tournament, and he's starting his own bid, quietly sneaking onto the Ozeki table. Very, very interesting to say. So all eyes on Takanosho later, because he's sliding under the radar, and he's going to Jack-in-a-Box pop out on us.
All of a sudden they're like, what? Takanosho? He won a tournament? What?
It's going to happen at this rate.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Takayasu, who we mentioned briefly earlier, also 9-6. Of note is that the entire Sanyaku, with the exception of Takakeisho and the two Yokozunas, all had winning records. This entire upper crust just demolished. And Takayasu is no exception. And he's returning to form. It's the pre-back injury, like, Shakespearean drama fall from grace. From Ozeki Takayasu. He's working his way back up. Likely being super motivated by Terunofuji and a lot of this second wind sort of sweeping the upper ranks. He was fast this tournament. There's multiple matches where he was really on his horse and just going around. He used that to defeat one of Terunofuji's 4 losses came from Takayasu outworking him.
Yes.
So I already knew about Takayasu's, like, his grit, his belt work, his, like, you get scrappy with him, good luck. But to see him with good timing on his push sumo and this mobility, the circling, these are probably things he already had. But when you have back issues, that stuff goes. So seeing that stuff come back or seeing it get reintroduced is a very promising sign for Takayasu's latter half of the career.
Yeah, hopefully he's found a way to somehow resolve the back issues enough that he can just keep going forward. He's got the most experience out of anybody up here. Takakeisho, Shodai, Asanoyama, even Terunofuji, not Ozeki for that long. I mean, Takayasu was Ozeki for like 2 years or something like that. So him being quiet, him adding things, I wonder, this is something I wouldn't know, how do people feel when they wrestle him in this, Komusubi spot? Do they still view him like they did when he was an Ozeki? Or has he fallen in their eyes? I mean, I would suspect that he hasn't. So even though he isn't technically Ozeki, I think he still sort of carries the aura of being an Ozeki.
Worth noting that Takayasu was training with Asanoyama in those training videos, and he was doing the chest lending, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he was.
And so that tells me, even if the rank, or maybe Asanoyama's just like, yeah, you're one up on me, but I'll let you go this time. It's just like, he's still giving him that. And performances like this, it's not going to be a formality for much longer. Now, I don't think he's in an Ozeki run yet.
Yeah.
I think literally 1 win away, as far as I'm concerned. And he dropped it on the last day to Takanosho.
So you got those two basically on a dead heat for who's going to be the sleeper.
So both of them really good. Takayasu, very pleased to see that it looks like he's recovering.
No more slow walk.
No more slow. I can only take one of those in my lifetime. Next up, again, 9-6, great on paper, strong sumo, but Mitakeumi had a 3-5 start and was getting pushed around. So there's 2 things that came out of this particular predictable sadness, I will say. So in the first 8 matches, the 3 wins that he had were all 3 Ozeki. And then he goes and he loses to non-Ozeki, the rank and filers. And so that's a weird motivation thing going on with him. Also, during the interviews, he mentioned that like he knew that this was like his thing. That he gets it together and then it all falls apart. So there's a self-awareness that either I didn't pick up on before or that he didn't just openly admit in an interview.
Right. Yeah, he's to actually say that in an interview, you almost wonder if he's trying to motivate himself by saying it out loud.
That's an interesting thought.
Prior to that interview, he had, as far as I knew, I mean, he could have done it before, he had never outwardly said it. And I feel like once he said it, it was like, it's out there now. Now I know, and now I've shown my cards, and now I have to do something about it. That was my interpretation. I kind of found it refreshing because he's been so frustrating. Mm-hmm. So for him to admit it, it just tells you he's trying. Everybody's got their thing that they've got to work on, and maybe that's the start. If you just call it out, maybe things will be different next time.
It's possible, because I'm trying to think back on his earlier records, and particularly once he won the 2 Yushos. Afterwards, he was always talking about, I'm going to go on my Ozeki run.
Yeah.
Now's my time. He would always be telling himself, then he falls flat. Now he's saying, I know this is my thing. I'm working on it. So now it's a different tact. Now, the Takayumi has burned me before. So yes. I want him to do well. But I'm going to have to sit and watch, see how he does in the next tournament. If he's in title contention legitimately in March, I'll be like, maybe this is a turn. That being said, Hakuho will be back, and basically everybody that we just talked about will have one reason or another to want that cup for their own ends.
As soon as Hakuho is gone for good, it's just going to be a free-for-all. Like, even with him out of a tournament, there's the specter of he's coming back. When he retires for good, everybody's just going to go nuts, and it's going to be a free-for-all. And maybe Mitakeumi can take advantage of the chaos. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. But I could picture him someday being, Tokushoryu and winning a surprise tournament at 35, Oh, wow, he had that chance to be Ozeki. We knew he had it in him. He's the only guy to have 3 tournaments, because we might get a new guy every single tournament for the next 20 years at this rate.
At least in January.
Yeah. The new Stormy Basho.
Oh, goodness. So that's the Sanyaku for Megashiro 1, the East and the West. Going into this tournament, they basically had the same story, which is that they were both people who were formerly Sanyaku, who were in the top 3 or 4, and posted good scores, but they weren't given the second Kamusubi ranks. And they were just sort of dumped on Megashiro 1, and it was a subtle proof that you're worth it.
Yes.
So, unfortunately for me, my pick for winning it, Hokutofuji, was 7 and 8. And he's sort of the crumbling under the pressure aspect of this challenge. So, beforehand, when this happened to Hokutofuji, personally being a big Hokutofuji fan and just not looking at this rationally, I saw this and I'm like, he'll regroup, but then he'll be back stronger than ever and he'll be back on the tear. But he did the exact same thing now that he did back then, which is all of his wins were people, with the exception of Takakeisho, and a massive bloody nose, but Takakeisho was sort of a non-factor this tournament. All the other wins were people ranked lower than him. All of his losses were ranked higher, which unfortunately is a good signifier that maybe Megashiro 1 is exactly where he was supposed to be.
Yeah, it sort of confirmed it. And you're right, I didn't necessarily notice that either, that this is a pattern for him.
Yeah. Because
there's so much energy and so much gusto that unless you're really, really paying attention to how these wins and losses come, it seems like, he's just a little bit away from... No, he's got to make some changes. And, he's mostly a push sumo guy. He started to add some belt technique the last time around. This is what happens to push sumo guys.
Yeah.
You either have it or you don't. We're seeing this with Takakeisho. We see this with Hokutofuji. Is he different than Takakeisho in the sense that he can be versatile enough to move into other techniques? Maybe yes, maybe no. But that's still not a simple thing to do.
No.
So you get lucky a couple times and you pull the right belt move. That doesn't make you the guy who's going to be the next Ozeki. So he's got some soul searching to do. Can he dig deep enough? Is there something in there where he can rise above Megashiro 1 East? Was he injured? Or was this just...
There's a lot of people who had, I'll say, atypical performances that are very obviously injured. Some people who were acting a bit off who may have been injured. For Hokutofuji, I think he needs something. So, for better or for worse, the thing that he's not lacking is motivation, because he was 2 and 8, and then he became 7 and 8.
Yeah.
So usually when you get that 8 already, there's that sort of whatever. But he's just like, nah, I am scraping, and he goes 5 wins to clean out the rest of the tournament.
Basically keeping his rank close to where he is now.
So for better or for worse, he's not going to be moving that far. So he'll get a chance to keep fighting the best of the best, and he's going to be face planted by Hakuho, unfortunately.
Like everyone else.
But it is this tragedy for me because there's something he needs.
He needs to train with Takarafuji.
Yeah, he does.
Takarafuji will help him out. We'll get to that.
Yes. But regardless, on paper, 7 and 8, grit for days as per. And I think like him just calmly walking off the dohyo after beating Takakeisho, just spurting blood all over the place. I was just like, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to quit this man.
No, he's always going to win, like, what is it? The Audience Choice Award or something like that.
Oh, goodness.
He's got too much spirit in him for you to abandon him.
I can't leave him. I'm gonna be betting on this horse all the way until my wallet dies. That's just the way it is.
Hey, I'm sure he would appreciate it if he knew.
If he knew.
Join the fan club. There's got to be an English side to it.
I'll figure it out. So, part 2 of the Megashiro 1 challenge is Daieisho.
The winner.
Needless to say, this is the success story. And this is what I call the Super Saiyan Daieisho. This is the
ascended Super Saiyan?
The ascended. Like, this is the Krillin just blew up behind you. It's go time. Like, that was at the end of day 8, that is what I was feeling. It like the first time the hair goes in Goku. I'm going full nerd, by the way.
Wait, what about Gohan, Android gets his head crushed?
Android 16?
Yeah.
Was
it that level?
I think if Daieisho gets Ozeki, it'll be that level.
I'll wait for that. To be continued.
But like there was no stopping him. And then he lost twice, but regardless. Then there was a hair pull. But we're not talking about that.
We're not talking about
that. He was just his sheer power. The way it mirrored Takakeisho's win from last tournament is worth noting as well, in that, like you were saying, with push sumo, either you have it or you don't. So he was knocking people away. Just blasting them out of the ring. Shodai, who was just living off of neutralizing other people's tachiai, barreled out of the ring. Yeah, that was a Kamehameha wave right there. That was, yeah. So that was the Daieisho that I saw. This is the one that I hoped I would get in September when he got that Sanyaku rank. Yeah, and you put your dark horse pick behind him, and I wanted that, but see, I thought Daieisho was going to be the Hokutofuji. It's like, he's got it, but it's just never going to come together. And then I'm like, what happened? I don't think anybody saw this coming. And now, something else we had talked about probably both in podcast and off podcast is that a lot of these Megashiro wins always came with caveats. Particularly when, for the majority of Bashos last year, people who were winning were the lowest rung. And of note is that Tobizaru and Shimanoumi, who were in serious contention, also all the way at the bottom. Right. And for 6 days of this one, Akisayama. But I know, right? So we'll get to him in a little bit. But all of those, it came with the caveat of, he won, but he spent the majority of his time beating up on the little ranked people. Daieisho cleaned out. And not only did he clean out every single guy above him, he did it in week 1. Yeah. Now, in some ways, it's like, okay, he was the freshest, but that everybody has that nervous jitter. He just came in and was like, this is my tournament, guys. Just so you know, Hakuho's not here. This is mine. I want this. I'm done. I'm done being Takakeisho's friend, okay? Yeah. Small side note, Daieisho and Takakeisho are very good friends. At least they were. Who knows if they are anymore. But as of a couple of years ago, they were really good buddies, playing video games together, watching anime, all this kind of stuff. It came from the same high school. Daieisho's his senior, so you got that deal going. I am sure, and I've heard in a few interviews, that watching Takakeisho ascend to Ozeki just kept turning Daieisho to get the Daieisho we got in this tournament. Because in Japan, especially in combat sports,
You need your rival to make you better.
Mm-hmm.
And Takakeisho cleaned house in November, was about to go on a Yokozuna run, and what happens on day 2? Daieisho, he tells him, sorry, buddy, not only you're not going to be Yokozuna, but I'm winning this tournament. So, you got to hand it to him. Although he's a terrible interviewer. He's just like Endo.
That was...
My style is sumo. Yeah, cool, I won, whatever.
I am interpreting that as 1, awful, but 2, if he trained his interview skills like he trained his Tachi, it would have been a tearjerker.
And he would have been Tokushoryu.
And it would have been Tokushoryu, but it's fine. It's just like, let that be your flaw for now, Daieisho. Once you get...
Keep practicing.
Strong. I want to see some punchlines,
Make people laugh a little bit.
Little laugh, a little bit of humanity in there, but, you know.
At least make a mistake when you're, like, taking the trophies.
Yeah.
You know, that was fun when, you know, you see Tokushoryu like, oh, what do I do with this thing? You know, Daieisho, you need something if you're going to clean house like this and win tournaments.
We'll get there. So, now, what's great is that this, like, all the way down, this entire Banzuke, so much to talk about. And
everybody gave us something.
Takarafuji's next. So, 9 and 6, Megashira 2 is a tall order, particularly for a veteran like Takarafuji who is really sturging. So, I looked up what Takarafuji's name meant, and it is the treasure of Mount Fuji.
What a fitting name.
It is so apt, particularly this tournament, because Takarafuji had everything. And a lot of this is like this new revival that he was always, prior to 6 months ago, he was strong, he was resolute, but he would, you know, sort of get pushed around, he'd fade a little bit. But now he's getting this resolve, he's digging in, and nobody can move him. It's like he's the mountain.
Yes. Takarafuji was my first favorite wrestler when I came in for 2 reasons. 1, I love the name. Though I did not know it meant Treasure of Mount Fuji, now I love it even more. But 2, I could see the stability. He's very light on his feet. I especially noticed it in this tournament. He sort of like glides across the dohyo, and that's why it's really hard to push him out. I mean, you've got to have power to push that guy out. Yeah. He's a training partner with Terunofuji, and I wonder if they train more now that Terunofuji, because obviously they were always stablemates. They could have trained at any time. But I wonder if they're doing more specific training together. I know Takarafuji was typically a guy that Yokozunas would call out if they were doing these group sessions. So somehow, just whatever extra training he's doing, he put it together with that stability and that amazing footwork. And, you know, talk about a quiet guy. 9 and 6 at Megashira 2 East. Where is he headed? What's his plan? You know, I don't know.
This is an unwritten script. This is also what's interesting is everybody else that we talked about prior, the goalposts are set.
Yes.
You know what they need. You know where they're trying to go. But for Takarafuji, you look at him, you're like, where is this gonna go? I think he's been in Sanyaku before.
He has been in Sanyaku.
A little while back. So he may be able to get back there. There's gonna be a heck of a lot to talk about in the preview show because of the way that this unholy mess...
how the Banzuke is even going to look.
But later on that, but I am very glad to see a 9 and 6 this high up.
Yeah. And that's a great improvement because he was sort of always in the middle, could get this high and then he'd get knocked down accordingly. This is the first time in my sumo life seeing him, you know, progressing. I do wonder when he first came in, because we weren't watching back then, you know, what was he like back then? You know, did he slow down or was he always stable middle guy? You know, a nice history homework assignment for us, I guess.
Maybe. So here's our first COVID absence. Wakatakakage, Megashira 2 West. Benched. He had it as well. And it is... I'm hoping this doesn't slow him down. I don't think it will. I think the biggest impact is that if he was there, then the order of the fights would have been different. So some people a little bit further down on the Banzuke wouldn't have gotten people so high up. And Wakatakakage would have been maybe not taking off wins from some of these people, but definitely would have been shaking them up. And so there's a couple of people, like particularly the Kamasubi and the Sekiwaki. I see him maybe causing some trouble with those. And for Terunofuji, that might have been the difference between double-digit wins. Maybe if he took one off of Shodai or Asanoyama, that would have affected the Daieisho race. If he, so there's a lot of what ifs.
Maybe even Daieisho.
With Wakatakakage, it's just, he had already sort of cut his teeth because he was 8-7 or 9-6 in November in like the top 5 already. So he already proved that he can cut it. So this would have been is he going to break up into the upper tier? And that's now going to be an unresolved question that's going to go into March. And
we don't know exactly what they'll do with the COVID situation. Last time it was a bunch of lower division guys and everybody just got to keep their rank. What will they do here? I mean, they set the precedent, so he'll probably stay where he is. And I guess it helps because, Kotoshoho was going up there. But, it's one of those things. Did this help him or hurt him?
So it's going to be a big question. That question's not going to be answered now.
No.
So after him is Megashira 3 East, Kotoshoho, who had what I called an oh no basho.
Ooh.
Because I started calling him Kotonosho, which is very rude, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it anyway. 2-13 is something that nobody likes. Now, I think what made it worse is that he fought tooth and nail for every single one of those losses.
He did. He didn't phone it in at all. He had some brutal, like almost there. He got beat down a lot. He got like crushed a couple times. And you could see it all over his face. He was slow walking every day.
Every day. And all the slow-mos were him just like grimacing. No. Just gritted teeth pulling as hard as he can as he goes back first into the clay. And like, it's also, there was several times that he would do some crazy acrobatics or he would keep his balance, some peak fit of athleticism, and then he gets pushed out.
And it's like watching a car accident. Like, I can't watch any more of this. Watch it.
So definitely he got in his own head halfway through. Now this is the meat grinder. This is the top 5. So where Takarafuji's very impressive to have 9-6. If Kotoshoho had maybe a 6-9, that would have been
you're almost there.
You're almost there, tough luck kid. The 2-13 is
you're going down.
Going down. And sort of rough because Kotoshoho, he was 5 or 6. So he was right at the cusp and he did some pretty good stuff. And then now he's just, this is a basho to forget. I'm looking to the Onosho, the origin of the 2-13, who has regrouped. And I'm hoping that Kotoshoho can channel that.
Is Kotoshoho the one that's 21?
He's super young.
Yeah, I think he's the youngest guy in the tournament. So some of this is just trial by fire.
Yeah, this is, inevitable in a bunch of ways.
Yeah, and you someday when he's like the strongest Yokozuna that ever was, oh my goodness.
He's 21.
Born in 1999? I'm so old.
Yeah, he'll be 22 in August.
Okay, so it was embarrassing for him, but my God, he's a baby. He's a little baby. I think if he forgets this tournament, no one will ever remember what happened when he was 21.
No, there'll be a blip on the radar. And that's the hope for Kotoshoho.
He's just got to think that way. He's
got
to put it behind him, pretend it didn't happen. He's got all the tools he needs to do much better the next time.
Next time. We'll see where this goes. So, we were just talking about Onosho.
And there he is.
Megashira 3 West, 9-6. This is where I hope Kotoshoho ends up, which is looking transformed. So, again, top 5 Megashira, 9-6. This guy who's knocking people around, his Tachiai is bonkers.
He was tweaking it. That was one of the areas he said that he needed to work on, and whatever he's doing is working. He's another push guy, so he's going to have to be careful with, the have it, don't have it thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really good and you put it all together, you can do what he did this tournament. He's very hungry. He's always been a hungry guy. And he's your dark horse.
Mm.
Where you don't really know. You know there's all this potential, but he hasn't shown what it is yet. And you don't know where he's going. And, it's going to mess with everybody else, depending on what he decides he's going to do.
He still has some polishing. So anybody who lives through that Tachiai of his can have been able to take advantage of some of his footwork and balancing. That's something you can fix. But when it comes for future Onosho, the one thing I'm liking is the swagger.
Oh,
the Hakuho swagger.
Yeah.
And he'll do, right now it's pretty reserved. Like and usually,
it's like a peacock right now.
Just a little bit. It's like I noticed at first, like, he did it one day. I was like, whatever. And usually, like, right after a strong Tachi, he knocks the guy out and he starts just like the head bob and going back. I'm just like,
Ooh, there's some diva in there?
Oh, I want to see that.
We're going to miss it when Hakuho's gone.
Yes. And it's Hakuho 2.0, maybe.
Well, it'd be interesting to see. It's interesting because sumo isn't like American sports, or even Japanese sports are probably like this, like baseball. You can't just go to another stable. But I could see if that were a possibility, Onosho would just go hang out with Hakuho. I'm sure they're buddies at this point. And be like, come on, help me out. But with when COVID finally ends, and Hakuho is not Yokozuna anymore, he could be the guy to give Onosho a couple of pointers. Just saying.
Teach him the pursed lips.
Be like, you know what? Your diva's just not quite puckered enough. Work on that.
Good news for Onosho. So, Tochinoshin, Megashira 4 East, 4-11. Bad news for Tochinoshin. I am going to bet money he is injured again.
Yeah, he's injured.
Yeah, so the last time I saw somebody who was 4-11 and was getting shaken down for his lunch money by the schoolyard bullies was Enho. And the parallels are a little distressing because Tochinoshin is a huge behemoth of a man. And so the ones that Tochinoshin did win were the ones that he was able to get a flex. Yeah. So he, Kotoeko and Endo, both, he got into a belt fight. And it was like that, it was that spark of life of the Ozeki Tochinoshin, which is buried deep in that Georgian heart of his. the unquenchable flame. But basically all the other times, he was just getting thrashed.
Yeah, just pushed out. Takakeisho made him look like, Takakeisho was having last tournament spot show. It's like, no, don't look at that clip and think this is that Takakeisho. But Tochinoshin made him look that way. Yeah, he's taped together.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder, he'll drop, and then he might be able to take those guys at the bottom. He's too strong to just become nothing. But at some point, those knees you're not even going to be able to walk on them anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when you just, But I don't know what his future in sumo is. I don't think his future is in Japan. I haven't seen anything. Although they keep this stuff pretty tight-lipped. I haven't seen anything to indicate that his plans are to stay in Japan. His wife and his child are still in Georgia. So for Tochinoshin, when he says it's over, it's over. So he might hang on as long as he can humanly do it.
Well, here's the hoping, anyway.
We'll just remember the old him.
Well, that run, that Tochinoshin Ozeki run, nothing will replace that.
Nothing. It's one of the best moments we had in sumo.
Oh, goodness. So good. So, another January Yusho winner from years past, Tamawashi and Megashira 4 West, 6-9. He was playing a foil, still has that strong tachi-ai, and anybody who isn't able to stand up to his thrusts will get knocked out. I think Tamawashi was actually having a good time of it, but then what happened is that he just he was a little too high up the banzuke, Because that second week he had Shodai, Asanoyama, Terunofuji, Mitakeumi, Takayasu, and Daieisho in a run. And all of those people were just there's no stopping them.
They're like, no, sir.
So, for me, that 6-9 isn't Tamawashi. That 6-9 is, there was just some really fired up, super game wrestlers at the top of this Banzuke. And unfortunately for Tamawashi, he's roadkill.
Yeah, and he's the oldest guy now left, I believe, with the retirement of Kotoshoho and some demotions by others. So, you know, he's just sort of doing his thing. He's not one of these young guns who are looking for a certain promotion. And that whole, gauntlet you just described, they all have something to prove.
They do.
Something to gain. And I don't know that Tamawashi is going to be the guy that gets in their way.
Unfortunately.
So, he's going to drop down, and then he's going to fight the guys he should fight. Maybe he'd be good teaching the youngsters a thing or two about the Nodowa and just taking people's heads off. I mean, he's still a very dangerous fighter. He can hurt you. He's hurt a lot of guys. He can break your arm. He can toss you out by your head. I mean, he's always somebody to be a little bit cautious around.
Yeah, it really is that 6-9 doesn't tell the story of the Tamawashi, who was real game this time around, I think. So next up, another one, surprisingly, somebody else who brought their A game, or felt like they did, was Endo, who was 7-8, and I really feel like that 7-8 doesn't tell the whole story, because a lot of his fights, he was really just trying to get it. There were some of them that were just these barroom brawls, huge fights. He had an epic go with Tochinoshin, and the two of them have been after each other for a while. Usually, like, when it's a 7-8, like, the 7 wins is that Yokozuna Endo somewhere, and then half of those are just him falling over off the Tachiai. There was not a lot of that this time around.
He was a lot more consistent.
And that's why there's a few people. Now, nobody's going to be worse than Kotoshoho on this. But a lot of people, they put the effort in, or they looked like they had strong fighting spirit, but they just got the losing record anyway.
And that's sort of a curse that follows Endo around. He's a bigger question mark to me than anybody else. Mitakeumi, we could say, what are you doing? But you kind of know where his head and his heart are at. I don't know what Endo's capable of. I would be really happy someday, actually, if he surprised us and won a tournament.
I want it to happen.
Yeah, wouldn't that be like the greatest thing?
That would. I wouldn't be able to talk crap about him ever again.
Yeah, well, just leave him alone.
Next January.
Endo.
I'm calling it right now.
Nice.
Endo 2022 January Basho winner.
And I'm calling it the worst interview ever. Just saying. Just saying. But I would love to see something out of him that reflects his sumo a little bit better than his record does.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, it's a bit of bad luck for him. There are some people that bad luck is,
follows him around.
And maybe it's not the bad luck. Now, we'll get to you, Takayama, in a little bit. But
that's a really hard one.
Yeah, well, in any case, A for effort, but unfortunately 7-8 for record. Which is, we'll see if this trend of effort continues. Because if he keeps putting that amount of effort in, he's going to start winning again, I think.
Yeah, if he just stays consistent with the effort, because the effort has been the one area that's been inconsistent.
Yeah.
He has the tools to do what he wants. I really think he could interchange him with Asanoyama. I think he has just as much skill as Asanoyama. But whatever's wrong in the head or the luck or whatever, he just keeps getting stuck where he's at.
Keep an eye on him. Next up, Megashira 5 West, Okinoumi 7-8, and again, Okinoumi does not take a day off.
No.
Now, the thing is that for Okinoumi, you know what you're getting with him. He's strong, and if you give him a chance, he's going to throw you down. Now, the 7-8, this also goes into the everybody just was fighting for it, but that's still 7 wins. That's pretty good. He had a chance to take one off of Daieisho on the last day. Daieisho was not having it.
No, it's
I thought Okinoumi, who was 7-7, was going to see this young whippersnapper Daieisho be like, let me show you a thing or two. And then what happened with the Ozeki was going to happen, and then Asanoyama beat Shodai and Daieisho wins from the locker room. But Okinoumi just got smashed.
Daieisho's like, let me just tell you for a second. This is my tournament. It's cool, old dude, but no, he smoked him right out of the ring.
Right out of the ring. Which, really, Okinoumi has the durability. So, like, I'm giving this to Daieisho because despite, like, again, like, we keep looking at Okinoumi and just like, are you going to be on the way out? He's just like, hell no.
No, he's fighting. He is a fighter.
He's a fighter.
Don't ever slouch on the day you're fighting him.
Yeah, he'll be in the dirt. It's good. So, good to see that fire still there. And, like, every tournament shows up, I'll be like, Okinomi's the wild card again.
Yeah, we need the old guard to stay there because every tournament we hemorrhage somebody else. So, you know, you get to really appreciate the Okinomi's of the world.
I'm appreciating him this tournament. Ryuden's next up, Megashira 60s, 4-11. He had a bad time of it. I'm thinking he was injured. His balance was all over the place. Like, he was still strong. If you got the belt and he had the advantage, he would get the win. But he was getting, like, staggered. And he'd be falling over and falling out and pushed out. And this wasn't the Ryuden from the last tournament or two.
I heard a comment on the side about hip.
Ooh.
So in one of the NHK videos, they mentioned Ryuden with the bad hip. So they didn't say anything more, so I have to assume that's a current injury. So I think he did have a bad hip injury, which might even explain why he started doing the
jockey?
Yeah, maybe his hip's been bugging him for a little while, and that's how he gets loosened up. But because it was such a small comment, I don't know any further details. Maybe Chris Sumo, when he does his deep dives, will go into that.
Maybe.
I think there's a high likelihood if he picks everybody, but, you know. So I think you're right about that, and if it's his hip, that screws everything up, especially your balance.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how badly he's injured. I mean, he didn't look as bad as some other guys who decided to keep fighting.
Oh, no.
So maybe it's just a small little tweak and, you know, take the month and get it fixed and get back in there.
Hopefully. Because Ryuden's also one of the old guard, but I think he's got another run or two left in him. You sleep on Ryuden and then he's all the way at the top again.
So all of a sudden he's there.
All of a sudden he's there. He's like, whoa, where'd you go from?
Well, I mean, he's another one of those Terunofuji guys who went all the way down because of an injury and worked his way all the way back up, so it's hard not to at least hope for success for him. You know, just like one more run, a tournament win, be in the tournament, whatever. So we'll have to keep an eye on him.
Next up, we have Kagayaki, 6-9 in Mega Sierra 6 West. That's two losing records in a row for him. So he had more of an urgency coming in. The last time that we had kept our eye on him because we didn't know that much about him, and he seemed to win in the matches that were a little bit more drawn out. And this time, a lot of the matches he was winning, like, pretty much up front. So he has more of a strength, more of that tachi. His core problem still remains that he if the momentum goes against him, he doesn't seem to have the tools to get it back.
Yeah, it's like you can see almost the wheels turning and, I lost this one.
Yeah. He could be overthinking it. He's still got that focus. So anybody who tries to run circles around him, it usually doesn't work.
Correct.
Actually, who won against him and Tobizaru? Let me look this up real quick.
There's Tobizaru right there.
No. Tobizaru has his bag of monkey tricks.
Yeah, Tobizaru is just... He's always a loose cannon, so...
Yeah.
And that works against someone like Kagayaki, who is very mentally strategic. You almost wonder, and you know, I gotta make speculations. I don't know these guys. I'm not in their head. But you almost wonder if he's got, like, the plan, and when the plan doesn't work, it's like, now what? You You know, and if something looks kind of like the plan, he can get out of the match. But if it doesn't, then it's like, oh, lost this one. Maybe he could to hang out with Tobizaru. Maybe he could teach him some monkey tricks.
Get him some chaos. But it's good to see the extra trick in his bag. To see him a little bit more forceful, see him more spirited. See where it comes from that.
He's working on it.
Also working on it, Meisei.
My dark horse, by the way.
Mega Sierra 7, he's 8-7, so not the 9-6 that he had for the last 2 or 3, but still winning records, and still that momentum is still building for him. He is, I think, almost back to where he was.
Yeah, he got an injury, went down to Juryo, won the Juryo tournament, and then he's been slowly climbing his way back up. I don't know if he's still injured, or like recovering from the injury, or if he's up to full strength, but he certainly looked a lot better this tournament than, I'd say, maybe it was 3 tournaments ago when he was building up from the bottom. He was kind of in the Yusho. It was only for a couple of days, but it was the first 5 days before he got a loss. I thought he was going to stay strong, and then he just kind of fell apart, but I think it was good experience to be in those matches, like maybe learning what he did from those matches, he can put together something another tournament.
Yeah. Well, he had a similar problem to Tamawashi, in that near the end they were just throwing him all the game opponents, and Meisei just wasn't ready for it yet. But he was going into the second week on the contenders list, so it didn't pan out for him in the end. But I saw that and I'm like, he's on his way up. Keep an eye on Meisei. We don't know where this train is going to stop.
I hope he gets up into that area where everybody's fighting for the prize and, you know, throws a monkey wrench and everything.
It'd be nice. He's got the power. He's very well rounded. So like he'll win on the belt, he'll win with throws, he'll win backwards, forwards, and that kind of versatility seems to be one of the components of a lot of people like Shodai who make it all the way up to the top.
Right. And I think he's a little bit younger, so he's got a little bit more time. It's funny how these guys rise in interesting ways. Let's see. 95.
26.
Okay, so he's not as young as I thought. But he's not 28. Terunofuji's 28. So maybe he's got a year. I'm going to give him a year.
Crucial 2 years.
Hey, in sumo, 2 years is like
2 years is an eternity.
10 years.
Yes. That's 12 bashos.
Yeah. And as we see, anything can happen in 12 bashos.
Gosh. So, next up after Meisei is Tobizaru, that we just mentioned. Mega Sierra 7 West 6 and 9. This is, I think he's still paying for that initial really good basho, and that he's up top, he's getting a little bit outshone. A lot of the people, he's hit the point where his bag of monkey tricks, people are wise to him, but the 6 and 9 means that he's still getting wins and he's still feisty, and there is no day that goes by that he doesn't give it everything. Like he will go after anybody, and I mean anybody will just like throw him like in low orbit, but
he always comes up with some sort of,
there's chaos.
Yeah, and there's always a smile on his face, or, some expressive, like, he could totally do comic sumo if he wasn't so high-ranked.
Yeah. He was, his last match on the last day against Midorifuji, which was a slobber knocker of a fight.
Yeah, it was.
And then Midorifuji finally throws him down. Tobizaru standing up with a smile. He was like, that's the, most other people, like Kaisei does the leaning back and sighing out, Kotoshoho does the sour face. Tobizaru smiles.
Yeah, he's like, you got me.
You got me. So there's that like uncrushable optimism. And I think really just a little bit more time, sharpen those edges, and he's going to be smiling his way to maybe getting a little closer to that cup.
I hope so, because I really enjoy every time he gets up there. It's like, please don't ever go.
God, I hope this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, he shouldn't drop He shouldn't drop too far.
far.
So he's got some time, and I know he can beat the lower guys. So
yeah,
that just, I'm just going to enjoy him wherever he's at.
I agree. Next up, Tokushoryu, who's a bit of a question mark for me. He's Megashira 8. He's 3-12. So everybody was like almost unfairly comparing him to last year. And so,
that was a little unfair.
He would get thrown in the dirt and be like, "Oh, this isn't the Tokushoryu from last year." I'm just like, he's having an off tournament. Like, I'm guessing he's injured because there's a lot of stuff that even in November he'd be able to know. In November he was 8-7, so he wasn't, he was giving about as much as he was getting. But there were some situations that I think Tokushoryu should have been able to get out of, but then something got in the way. And like for him, it can't be a mental issue. Because he's already won. This is the happily ever after for him. Right.
This is all bonus.
This is all bonus. Every time you go in there, I'm going to give him my all. I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to do this as long as I can. So this is my impression of it. It's that there's something happened. Maybe his dog died. I don't know. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But like there's something, there was a hex.
Yeah, something was off. And like you said, it doesn't fit that it's, he was shooting for something and that messed his game up. He probably is injured. It's a very high likelihood. If not, something could have happened in his personal life that threw him off and he was just sort of there. I mean, you can't discount the COVID thing. Maybe
no, it's always COVID.
I mean, with all those wrestlers getting taken out, I think in the very beginning of the tournament, even for the fans, it was, is this tournament going to go 15 days? And you'll see this in some of the matches, particularly the Shodai one when he bumped into the ref at the end. Just the slightest bit of concentration off, and you lose your match.
You do. Because
the whole match is about the Tachi-ai. Now, you can recover from a Tachi-ai, but even that's a split-second thing that you need to recover from. The whole thing is lightning fast. So if you just have an off thought, you're probably going to lose the match.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there could have been some of that looming over the situation.
I am...
Never know.
Never know. I hope he doesn't get demoted. Now, at Megashira 8, that shouldn't be the case. The Banzuke is going to be super weird this time around. Mm-hmm. We're going to get more into it later. But there could be some precedent for him getting dumped with a 3-12.
Right, just with everything that's going to happen.
With everything going on, I think that won't happen. He's just too high up, but he will definitely be in the danger zone.
He'll be in the, yeah.
And the hope is whatever happened in this tournament goes somewhere far, far away, and then he'll get like 9 or 10 wins.
This is the March tournament all over again from last year where there were people who just wanted to forget it ever happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a one-off, and it never did happen again for anybody else. So maybe, he's one of the guys that says, January who?
Yeah. Oh, there's only one January, I remember.
That's right. That's the only one that counts.
Only one that counts. The only one that's, I had they took a picture of me with a sword for that one.
I'm up on the rafters.
Right there, right? You mean that January? That's what I thought.
Well, let's talk about that January.
Next up. Kiribayama, Megashira 8 West, another example of the rank doesn't reflect. Because he was 8-7, but it was a great return to form. So we knew Kiribayama was injured. He was he was in the top 5. He was one of the new hot shots. He was the protege of Kakuryu. We were all looking at him. He took a little tumble, and then he had the shoulder injury, and he went down again. So he may have still have some sort of an injury going on, so he wasn't at 100%. There were still some blunders in his sumo, but it was that really smooth, slick belt work and mobility that got him up to the top 5 before. So even though 8-7 means he's not going to go that high up, for me, this was a very good tournament to see Kiribayama back to the winning stuff.
Yeah, it shows that it wasn't just a fluke, that we weren't just excited about him, in this brief period of time. He's a very good fighter. If he gets himself nice and healthy and does his thing, he's going to be in the mix for Sanyaku and all kinds of other things. Tournament win. I mean, after watching Daieisho win, who's been at this for a long time, you look at someone like Kiribayama and say, he could do it. He could do it. So hopefully he's recovering well. And then by the time he starts his ascension, Kakuryu will definitely be his coach.
Yeah. So imagine this. Retirement party favor for Kakuryu is a Kiribayama Yusho.
Oh, you know he would be shooting for that.
This is another strictly Japanese thing in that, like, whenever like a coach dies or somebody retires, somebody goes just like, I gotta get one for that person.
And that is what happened for Tokushoryu last January. His coach had died during the tournament, I believe. So yeah, I could see Kiribayama having that extra oomph. And that's got to be on his mind. He knows. He's talking to Kakuryu all the time. He probably knows better than anybody else what's going to happen with him. So he might just be biding his time. You know, and let's see, he goes up to Maegashira 6. Maegashira 4. That's a pretty good position to be in to win a tournament.
Maybe. Well, literally the best position to be in for a tournament is 17 East.
Well, yes. But we don't want him to tempt that fate.
That's not, yeah. Actually, well, we'll get into this later, but it's likely that there won't be a 17 because they're probably going to give Daieisho a Sanyaku rank.
They better, I mean.
If
they do that to him again.
What else are you going to give him? He's got to be Sekiwaki too. But
he's probably going to just blast the judges out if they do that.
I can't even imagine.
They put him through a lot.
It's gonna. I think we'll get more into this when we actually know what the Banzuke is.
Yes.
And I think I'm expecting to spend about half hour of that being like, what?
What did you do that for?
What is guy? Anyway, Kiribayama, good show. In March, double-digit wins, and you're back in it. So, next up, another COVID absentee, Chiyonokuni. So for this one, I'm a little concerned because Chiyonokuni came in to November like spitting fire. And that was his grand return. Another injured, goes down, goes back up. He showed he had everything going. He had all of this momentum that I'm hoping he doesn't lose. Yeah,
especially because he was still injured last tournament. You know, he's still recovering from injuries, and he was able to do so well. What happens when you're injured and you take a rest that you weren't planning to take, and now you got to start all over again? That is the big question mark.
Yeah. So optimistically, the COVID freebie gives him some time to fully recover, get a little crisper and cleaner. That's what happened in the May of last year, is that when we went back to sumo after the suspended tournament, that there's people who are more prone to injury were a little bit crisper. Maybe that's the Chiyonokuni that comes back. But I feel like that COVID sort of robbed him of the opportunity to continue to prove himself.
Yeah, and you can only hope that he just says, you know what, it doesn't matter, I'm going to come back, I'm going to do my style of sumo. And he puts himself into the conversation for greater things.
Yeah. The next person is Myogiryu, another game veteran, Megashira 9 West, 8-7. He's a little bit less consistent these days. He gets some really, really strong, good wins, and then like he will make people work for their meals, and then other days he just falls right over. And this is
just how he's been.
He's just hanging in there. He's fun to watch, and I'm looking through the list. He got one off of Ichinojo, who was particularly game. He got one off of Takayama, which is unfortunate.
That's a whole other topic.
But then there's a couple of losses that I'm just like, could have gotten that.
Yeah, why'd you lose that one? That was strange.
But 8-7 winning record means that he's still in it, and you know, a win's a win.
Right, and presumably he'll be around for a little while, and you know, somebody's gonna teach the young guys what's what.
Definitely him. So we got Okinoumi in the top, and then we have Myogiryu in the middle. So there's no escaping the veterans who will slap.
Who will get a giant smile on their face when a brand new guy comes in.
Oh, yeah. They're just like, I'm going to break you in.
I can't wait. That's who they are.
Next up is Shimanoumi, the dark horse. 10 East, 9-6. So I saw very little changes in Shimanoumi's strengths. I think the only difference this time around is his rank, because he was 17.
Right, he jumped up.
So all of a sudden, now he's starting to get a scrape off of the upper crust, and it's just a step up in competition. And also of note is that he got 9 wins.
Right,
so
it's not like it killed him to go up.
So yeah, it's just, he didn't have 11 this time around.
Right.
Which, and quite frankly, the losses that he got near the end were them just being like, he's winning, give him the tough people.
Right.
Did he fight Terunofuji or something ridiculous in November? I forget.
Yeah, check that.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, Shimanoumi was the guy who was going to continue on the, lowest guy on the rankings, wins a tournament thing. But he's actually not a one-off. He's got a lot of good moving parts. I don't know, with this talented pool of Rikishi that are here, what he'll do. He's a big question mark for me.
Yeah.
I think he's a solid guy, though, and he could do things, but I would never tell you what his goalposts are.
Goodness, no. This is definitely somebody to watch, because the more times he gets those winning records, the higher up he goes. The more people are going to be like, what do you got going on?
Yeah, he's here again?
What's going on?
Maybe
Very promising.
Keep an eye on you.
Yeah. I feel it's a very strong 9 and 6. So I'm very invested in what Shimanoumi's going to do next.
I'm just invested in him going high enough to fight Hakuho. I can never... I don't know if they've ever faced each other.
Probably not.
I mean, every time somebody new can fight Hakuho, you just gotta savor it, because there's only so many more times that's gonna happen.
So many more times.
So, at the very least, you need to get high enough to fight Hakuho.
Hopefully before he retires.
Yeah.
Next up, Aoiyama. Megashira 10 West, 6 and 9. This is Aoiyama is as Aoiyama does. One thing I did notice this time around, and this has also been pretty typical for him, but he is just all offense. Because the times that he wins, and also it's also the longer he fights, the angrier he gets.
He is one angry dude.
So, when the Midori Fuji fight went for a little longer, he was just and he was just cracking. But the thing is that just because he's so big and he's probably held together with duct tape, if you get him pushing back, or if he feels like he's losing, he just goes for the pole.
Right.
And automatically it's a reflex. And there's not really much else that Aoiyama can do at this point.
No, it's sort of that stereotypical, if you're watching a cartoon where it's you angered the big scary guy, and he's running after you, and then he runs into the pole.
Yeah, that's Aoiyama, pretty much.
Yeah, and he's hit this point in his career where that's what he's got left in the tank.
Basically.
So, it's one of those things where you in particular, because he's one of your guys.
He's probably the first guy to get me into sumo. So
he's got a special place.
Warm spot in my heart, but it's just like all these other veterans.
Time.
We're wondering if we'll ever see Shohozan again. Shohozan was ripe, and Aoiyama's just right there with him. You just, Kotoshogiku, Ikioi, you enjoy him while they're there. And he's still there, 6 and 9. He'll still be in
Yeah,
next
he's not going to be in Juryo yet.
Yeah, he's got a good 2 or 3 tournaments before we'll have to really worry about that.
And then he'll be waiting for the new guys, too.
Oh, yeah.
Salivating.
He's just going to give him a big fat red spot on their cheek. Next up, another COVID absentee, Chiyotairyu. His, a little bit more question mark on him. He was sort of reinventing himself. He was losing weight. He was adjusting his sumo, sort of transforming into the latter half of his career. And then he gets benched in the middle of that. So, with Chiyonokuni, there was a lot of momentum going for him. Chiyotairyu sort of was dipping a little bit.
Yeah.
And working his way back up. So he's sort of equalizing. So, charitably, I think his COVID benching will give him a little bit more time to focus inward, to tighten up, to refine his transformation so he doesn't have to do it on the dohyo. That being said, sitting down and taking it off, what's that going to do to you? Now, again, we don't know what they're going to do with all these people they're benching. The precedent is that they keep their ranks. I think it'd be a little weird if they don't do that, even though it's going to make somebody like Chiyotairyu in an awkward spot. Do you push him up or down on past performances? Hard to say.
Yeah, I really don't know what they're going to do with so many guys being out.
Yeah.
I don't think you can create new spots. I mean, actually, that does tell us it would work very well for them to create new spots in Sanyaku because it's like the only spot you can.
Yeah.
So I guess it was a good thing that Daieisho was giving them that problem. So that might help them. But other than that, I don't know what I think they all just kind of stay there in stone and then you figure out these other guys and there's going to be
around them.
There's going to be some unfairness for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But it probably will not be him. So, like you said, hopefully the time off was a good thing for him. You know, just take some time, think it through, visualize your sumo.
Yeah. And, I mean, all of the Chiyos are just going to be doing nothing but practicing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet you they're still practicing if they're all quarantined.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do?
Right, just practice with each other.
Yeah, you just like, hey, you call each other up. You're just like, yeah, Chiyonokuni, what are you doing? Nothing. You want to go fight? Sure.
Sure, why not?
Sure.
You want to watch the tournament on the TV?
Watch the tournament, get sake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is kind of nice. Yeah.
That's all you can do. All right. So, next up, Kotoeko, Megashira 11 West, 6-9, still struggling.
He's a struggler,
Struggler. I think that's just his natural state. He's got he has the willpower. He's always trying, but he can't put the puzzle together.
Yeah, it's very confusing. Like, when I watch him, I'm just confused. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I can't put my finger on like what he's doing wrong exactly. I just see him losing.
Yeah, it's also like he will do the same thing in 2 matches and then he'll win one.
Right.
He'll win one, he'll lose another, and he's still like his brand, I think, is still strong. Mm-hmm. Because he's small, but he's doing a lot of tough guy sumo. He doesn't back down. He got into that belt fight with Ichinojo.
Yeah.
And he got into a belt fight with Tochinoshin. He's just like, I'll go with all of you. And then he loses.
Yeah, it's very strange. You know, only his Oyakata knows what's going on. So hopefully he fixes that.
He'll fix it. Again, also, he's still, he's going on a year, I think. So he's not new, but developing, I'll say.
He's developing. That's a good way to put it.
He's got the potential. And again, like when you have that fearlessness, which, I mean,
that should count for something.
It's a building block. It's just like, if you have that, then that means you're willing to go. So you see that and you're like, you're still confusing me, but I will trust that you will put something together.
Right, exactly. So hopefully we're just going to get a big surprise in one of these tournaments with Kotoeko. I don't know. I'm a little on the nervous side for him, but I'm going to root for him.
You just come back jacked again. I say this every time.
Oh, yeah. Just add another layer of shoulder to your shoulders because those are the biggest shoulders in sumo. Except for maybe Tochinoshin.
Cut Tochinoshin's arms off, put them on Kotoeko.
Then that would be very interesting because it would be like the length of his body.
I know. He will, like his tachi, he'll be doing it standing up.
And we're like, okay, what do we have here?
Next up. Silly mode. Ichinojo, Megashira 12 East 9-6, woke up. Like, that's...
For the first time in his career.
He was fired up, strong tachi. Now, when he lost the tachi, he just folded, usually. But, like, sometimes his tachi in the past, like, he wasn't there for those.
Yeah, wouldn't even do the tachi.
Yeah. And sometimes he'd win the tachi and then he'd just go for a pull.
Like, it didn't work.
But he was aggressive. Whatever happened, somebody set a fire under Ichinojo.
Well, there was one match where he actually went tumbling out of the ring. I can't think of the last time that ever happened to him because he would usually give up so that he wouldn't go tumbling out of the ring. So either he's feeling a lot better and is less worried about getting injured, or something's under him where he's like, I don't care anymore. It was actually a little scary because Ichinojo's such a big guy and you're so used to him being slow. Then when you see him running at a guy, you're like, whoa, somebody's gonna die.
He was fearsome. I'll agree with that. Yeah, it was good. This is the Ichinojo who was 14-1.
If only he got his shot. Goodness. I should have let him fight Hakuho. That's all I'm saying.
So, but
politics there.
well, I think
You're like, don't go there.
If we start talking about sumo politics, we're never gonna finish.
Yeah, and
we'll be here all
and it won't be any fun.
No. Anyway, good on Ichinojo.
I hope he keeps doing it.
Give us half of this fire next tournament, and it's still good.
Yeah, and don't be injured.
Please don't be injured. Yeah,
he did take one tumble out where I was like, no, don't get injured.
A little bit of that.
But I think he was fine, and I hope we continue to see this.
Next up, Terunofuji, Megashira 12 West 7 and 8. Again, the 7 and 8 doesn't tell the whole story because Terunofuji had an injured arm. I don't know if he came in with it or when Akisayama fell on him that he sort of cracked it. But there were a couple, 3 or 4 matches. He had, it tucked in like it was, in a sling. Yeah. It was Terunofuji. This is, him sheer grit, sheer fighting through the pain. So, Terunofuji, if nothing else, gets that hardy, here to stay kind of a prop. So...
Especially with the leg pick situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just Terunofuji being sketchy.
But he did it with one arm.
It is. So, he was making it work. Excellent balance. So, on the leg pick, what I wrote down for this is, and the broadcasters were all over this, that when he leg picked Ryuden and he carried him out, as soon as he had won, he pulled the leg and sort of slowed his advance so Ryuden didn't go falling out. So, Terunofuji, leather jacket or no, nice guy.
Which reminds me, Kitanofuji was wearing the jacket that Terunofuji should wear. So just take that picture, remember it, and put that jacket on Terunofuji.
Red leather jacket.
That red leather jacket.
Yeah. So Terunofuji, I feel, earned his keep.
Yeah, and that was nice. That
was nice. Now the thing is that where he was, if he actually went out and took care of his arm, he'd be in Juryo. So he was sort of in a bit of a rock and a hard place, but he made it work, and he showed that even with a busted arm, he did really well.
Yeah, and, we don't know how bad the injury is, but hopefully hopefully it wasn't that bad for him to actually compete in the full tournament. Yeah. So, March, we can check him again, but don't try to leg pick Hakuho. He's too low to do Hakuho, but for goodness sakes, there are some people you should not leg pick, so don't do it.
Can you imagine? I'm pretty sure Hakuho would knee him in the face.
He would crush him into the ground. He would be like the nail in the center of the dohyo. Oh, God. It might be worth it.
He would try it, too.
He would try it. He has no fear. It's awesome.
Next up, Aqua. Megashira 13. He's 5 and 10. Had some issues. He was flaily. A lot of his matches, he was just throwing his arms left and right. Not a lot of balance. Henkas. Now, Aqua has just been through everything. So, how much of this is his nerves? How much of this is not wanting to get in another car crash?
Right? It's like he gets into the car crash and competes. Then he gets COVID. He recovers just in time for the tournament, which means he didn't have a lot of time to train. Yeah. I mean, maybe his head is just real messed up right now and he just needs to regroup.
Also, it's a very valid point. You can be done with COVID, but you still have symptoms.
Exactly.
Just I'm not going to get into COVID being COVID, but you'll no longer have the fever, you'll no longer have the lung issues, but you'll still have energy problems. Mm-hmm. You definitely can't train. So it'll be a lot like the July tournament that a lot of people were rusty. Yep. And unfortunately for Aqua in this case, he's the only one who has this problem. Everybody else is just ready to go. Right.
They either got COVID, and missed a tournament. They didn't get it right before. Right. It was pretty unfortunate timing. And
bad luck for Aqua.
Do you think they'll demote him with a 5 and 10?
This is where it's going to get weird because, just the way that Juryo is, mm-hmm. there's only one swap that is going to happen. And then everything else is going to be how they're going to deal with all the COVID slots. Right. And so we're going to have to wait and see. On a normal day, a 5 and 10 would put him in the danger zone. He would probably be all the way at the bottom of the Banzuke. Okay. He may be top Juryo. We're only going to know
when it comes out.
So next up is another COVID. Chiyoshoma, who was fresh and new to
coming back up.
Yeah, fresh return to the top ranks. Last tournament got 8 and 7. Not sure if this is lucky for him or unlucky. He's an older veteran. He's sort of tricksy. Fun to watch. It was a personal loss to have him get benched because he was going to be interesting. He's sort of a different brand of chaos, but don't really have much of a read on him one way or the other. For veterans like this, you can say good because he gets the rest. You can say bad because there's only so many tournaments left in his body. Hard to say either way.
Right. We're going to find out in March when he comes back. Was this a okay thing? Or... That's
all I got for him, unfortunately. So, next up. Hokutofuji, 14 East, 9 and 6. So you look at the 9 and 6, you said he did pretty well this tournament. His was a roller coaster ride.
Oh.
He started out 0 and 5, and then goes on a tear. 9 win streak. 2 with Henkas, but the thing is, like, when he was losing, he was sloppy. He was all over the place. He was struggling. 7 of those 9 wins, crisp, strong sumo. He did some leg trip, cool stuff. He did some, like, real cool edge throws. 2 different wrestlers.
Yeah, you would think, is this his brother?
Yeah, did
they swap out?
Did Asanoyama go in a time machine?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's hard to say. He really didn't need those Henkas record-wise, but did he need them because he was just in a desperate place and he just needed to put some wins on the board?
Feels that way.
One wonders what Asashoryu says to him after the tournament, which I'm going to wonder that every tournament. Is he proud of him for just pulling it off and getting 9 and 6, or is he like, you could have done better, you hangud? I don't know. Asashoryu was known to be quite the temperamental dude, so it depends on how much he loves his nephew, I guess.
Well, I mean, a 9 and 6,
that's a good score.
It's a good score. Definitely. Hoshoryu's struggle will be this mental problem because he's got the natural talent. If he can either just have enough time to acclimate, can get some really solid wins of his own, like whenever that switch is flipped, that's going to be a different person. And
I expect it. Now, it might just be because of his uncle, but I expect that he's going to be somebody we have conversations about in the top. I expect the switch is going to get flipped. For whatever reason, I have utmost confidence in his ability to be a top guy. I think it's just a matter of waiting it out.
Well, good news for him. 9 and 6.
Gonna do it.
Just give him a buffer. Maybe the buffer was that mental game. We'll see. So, sort of the other end of the coin, somebody who has the talent and doesn't have these mental issues, but has all the pressure nonetheless. Midori Fuji, welcome to the top 9 and 6 on Megashiro 14 West. So let's see if we can both say this. Kataskashi, the undershoulder swing down.
Kataskashi. It's a very difficult one.
He did that like 4 or 5 times this tournament. That's his signature move.
Which is an interesting thing because usually signature moves, it's like, it's coming. He still was able to pull it off. They knew it was coming, and he pulled it off.
It is fun to watch.
He was the only rookie this time. He was a very fun fighter. Now, he was in that practice tournament, and we didn't know who he was. We're like, who's this, like, little wrestler who's going up against the big guys? In the tournament, he went at everybody. He didn't do the shifty Hanka stuff. He went chest to chest with the big guys.
Yep.
And then pulls off, the under-shoulder swing down, because I'm not going to try that Japanese again. Like, it was nothing. The confidence was there for days.
It is very promising. So what also is nice is, fearlessness goes chest to chest. He does some mobility stuff. He's still small. He does all the fast stuff. There were 2 matches that in particular showed his endurance. One was when Ichinojo leaned on him for 2.5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was sitting back and thinking, if you were to put 400 and something pounds on me and tell me to lean on it for 2 minutes, I am mush in 20 seconds.
Right, you would fall to the ground.
This guy, so I'm he's probably bigger than me in terms of size and musculature, but like...
He's not that big of a guy.
Not that big of a... He's a smaller dude. So, the fact that he was able to... Now, he lost the match eventually, but he Ichinojo leaned the hell out of him, and he stood there for 2 minutes and 40-something seconds, just like, man! And he was fighting for the belt the whole time.
He never gave up on that match.
Never gave up. I would, yeah. Incredible. And then against Aoiyama, which he won, Aoiyama used him like a punching bag.
Yes, he did.
He was a speed bag in the face. Smack, 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 smack. And like, I got a concussion watching it. And Midorifuji just like, I'll live it.
Yeah.
Big man sumo, slap him in the face, throws him to the ground. So, Midorifuji looks like the package.
He looks like the Enho we wanted.
The Enho we wanted.
It seems he can do it all, and yet he's not so easy to throw out of the ring. He's like the type of guy who might grab onto your arm if you try to throw him out of the ring, and you're trying to swat him off, and you just can't get him off. He's going to have to worry about, injuries and things like that, and he's pretty low down, so we'll have to see when he starts fighting the tougher guys. But I'm very excited about him. I think he could be just what we need, a nice fresh breath of, air in the top division. I don't know where he's going, but I'm ready to take the ride.
Yeah. In a tournament of high performances, his does stand out to me.
Yes.
So, Midorifuji, please, more of that.
More and some.
And some.
Mm-hmm.
So next up.
What a sad deal.
Takayama, Megashira 15 eats. 7 and 8. I don't know what to say about Takayama outside of just the fact that he went from 7 to 4 to 7 and 8.
I didn't see that coming.
That he has the strength, he has the spirit. There's something that when the pressure turns on, there's a certain amount of pressure that you push it on him and then it just doesn't work. Like seeing his increasing frustration and desperation, it hurts.
I think you've really nailed something there, is that Takayama probably puts a lot of pressure on himself.
Yes.
He's seeing Asanoyama, who he came in with. They are rivals. Just meteoric rise to Ozeki, and here he is down at the bottom. And I don't think he's channeling all that, that desire into his sumo. It's got a flaily quality to it without him exactly, physically flailing. He probably lacks confidence at this point.
Yeah.
We know he's injured, but there's just so much spirit in there. It's just not going in the right channels, and everything's falling apart.
His chakra.
His chakra's all messed up.
Chakra's all messed up.
He's gonna get demoted to...
7 and 8 again. This is where... So you got your 3 and 12s, and then you got your 7s and 8s. It's all... I don't know how this Banzuke is going to go. You can make an argument for him being in Jiryo. You can make an argument for him being a half rung down.
Yeah, especially with, we'll get to it, but Kaisei being a COVID person and being Megashira 16 East.
Yeah.
To keep him up there and throw Takayama and Jiryo.
It's so... I don't know how it's going to go, and it's just so... It's like you look at Takayama, you're just like, I want better for you, my son.
So badly.
I want so better.
I really want to see him up there duking it out with everybody else. And I did not expect him to be in this position way back when him and Asanoyama won the Fighting Spirit prizes together. I really thought they were going to stay neck and neck. And it bothers me to see him down there. I can't imagine how he feels.
It's a child in the rain. It's just so painful.
It is.
So painful. Takayama, we are rooting for you.
Come on, you can do it.
Accept our energy. Please.
Yeah, just hold your hands in the air.
Yes. We will support you. So, Koto no Waka, in contrast, does not need anyone's help.
No, he's going to be the stud that everybody's predicting. The commentators are very high in Koto no Waka.
15 West, 10-5. No more injuries, and he is dangerous. Like, this is, like, when he first went in, like, about a year ago or so, when he first made it into the upper division, everybody was talking him up. It's sort of the way that they were talking to Tokushoryu. And they're just like, he's the next big thing. You keep your eyes on this guy right here, bub. And I'm sort of like, okay. He struggles a little bit in the beginning, like everybody does. Gets injured, falls back down in the Jiryo, and I'm sort of like, well.
That happened.
Yeah. Then this tournament happens, like, ooh, more of that.
Throw you right in the conversation.
Yes. So, now, like Midorifuji, like Ichinojo to an extent, anything this far down, you're just like, this is potential.
Right.
We're building right now. Like, so is Koto no Waka going to go all the way up? Looks like it. If he keeps fighting the way he did in January, it's going to happen.
And that's going to be trouble for all the other guys who are, scrapping at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, have the new people chomping at the heels. Can you imagine he's Ozeki before Mitakeumi?
Oh, no! I could see it. I gotta be honest. I mean, Mitakeumi's going to be the punching bag of sumo. Oh, he's just going to hang out at Komusubi until he retires.
Oh, God. Koto no Waka, that's your new goal. Just say, I want to see the sourpuss face. Just, I'm going to hate myself for saying it.
Oh,
I hate myself now.
Just thinking about it.
The fact that it feels so true. Anyway, Koto no Waka, well done. See you at the top. That's where you're going.
We'll probably be talking about you a lot in March. So next up is the last COVID of the upper division, Kaisei, Mega Tier 16 East. This one is definitely a saving grace for him, because if he was in this tournament, he would likely get a losing record. Yeah. Because he's just plagued with injuries. He's holding on for dear life. And there's like no pushovers left in the...
Yeah, he is out of runway. So hopefully Kaisei is able to get the freebie, get better, heal up, maybe try and put something together. Because, Kaisei was the guy who won 11 wins in a row. He was Daieisho a little while back.
Yeah.
Now, Kaisei sort of fell apart at the end. I think Hakuho was involved. But
of course he was.
But just say, Kaisei still has the potential, if his neck and his back are killing him, maybe 2 months of R&R is going to be the division for that. Maybe he's just going to be in Jiryo in March anyway.
Yeah, it depends on, when you have a neck injury, I mean...
everything else is going to be so bad.
Yeah, a neck is something that doesn't heal that easily, but there's been a lot of time since the original injury. Yeah. So, yeah, rest... let's just say rest shouldn't be a bad thing for him.
Certainly a bad thing, and if nothing else, we'll get one more tournament out of him, fingers crossed.
And then we'll see.
It's up to Kaisei then to get 8. Next up is our other newcomer, Akisayama, 9-6, 6-0 start. Everybody had no idea how to handle this.
They're like, is this happening again?
We were like, again with this? Akisayama was a mixed bag of everything. He was pushing people out. He was throwing people out. He was doing crazy edge of the ring stuff. He looked like he didn't know what was happening either. He's like, I'm just up here as a fan. I love Akisayama.
He was really, really fun. He was having a good time. I'm sure it was a surprise, but not a surprise to be up in the upper division again. It's not something that he necessarily expected, but when it happened, he was like, cool. And his interview was quite delightful when they interviewed him after he got his Kachikoshi, and he said, I think I'm going to cry. I'm like, oh, this is so nice. We need more, jolly fellas or just in there having fun, showing us the fun side of sumo and not so much of the seriousness. Yeah.
And he's another super big guy. All these little guys come up. Here's a big guy who he'll squash people. But it's he is where Midorifuji is the technique, fresh air. To see the new young guns, a fresh technique. Akisayama is the opposite end of that spectrum. And that he's got the style, but also he's this caricature. He's just fun. He's happy. You're looking at him and you're just I feel just warm and fuzzy inside.
Exactly.
And 9-6.
Exactly. I mean, it was looking a little weird once he went 6-0, and then he started dropping all of them. I'm like, is he going to go 7-8? But no, he finished off strong, and this is bonus time for him. No doubt about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he lost 5 in a row after winning the first 6.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, what are we headed for? But then he won the next 3, and then, final day,
Yeah.
He'd done enough.
Up against Kagayaki on the final day, by the way. About 10 rungs above him.
Yeah, exactly.
It got a little weird. But anyway, good to see Akisayama. Hopefully, every tournament that he's in is going to be a good tournament.
Absolutely. Because
Right,
I think he'll just bask in the glory of just being in the top division.
It is. And you feel it. You're like, we're giving energy to Takayama, we're getting energy.
Which we need.
We need a little bit. Yeah. We need to feel good about this.
Where's the love for the sumo fan?
Last person on our list is Sadanaumi, Megashira 17 East. He was in the danger zone. He got 5 and 10. Of note is that he was sort of hanging in there for a little while, and then basically once he got his Makakoshi, he just stopped fighting.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done.
He got the wind knocked out of him.
One of the few Kotoshoho wins.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign.
Not by Monoe, but he's still good. Like, he was still game. He was fighting spirited. I think in the end, he just knew it was going to happen and just sort of embraced it. Basically just, it wasn't enough to get 8 wins. And that's really, unfortunately, when you're at the very bottom of the division, you either win a Yusho or you're down with a Juryo.
Right. And he's at the end of his career. Who knows? He might tool around in Juryo, have a late resurgence. But at this point, he's not going up. He's been going down for a while.
Yes.
So maybe some time in Juryo is not the worst thing. At least he still gets paid.
At least he still gets paid.
That's the important thing.
Maybe he'll be back. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's been up and down.
Yeah. Wouldn't mind seeing him again, but
he's being banished.
He's being banished to Juryo for now. It's fine.
For now.
Oh well. So that's the upper division. Some side notes. The Outstanding Performance Award went to Daieisho, not a surprise. 3 people won the Technique Prize. Daieisho again, Terunofuji, and Midorifuji.
Always a good sign.
Always, yeah. So Midorifuji, who Kataskaski,
everybody.
Got that. Terunofuji, obviously, for just being an absolute menace. No fighting spirit. The Kanto show. I think both Kotonowaka and Akisayama had contention.
That was a little strange that they decided not to give them out.
I think all of them were on a win. Sometimes they just say you get it. But this time around, they're all, you gotta win the last match.
They're so fickle.
Politics again. We can get right back in.
Yeah.
Let them have the prizes!
Come on. People need the prizes.
So, of note also, is some people were benched for having COVID. Some people were benched for being in the same stable or heya as somebody. So, of note is that Enho and Ishiura, who were in a Hakuho stable, were benched just for being proximity. In mid-tournament, people in the heyas that were benched got COVID. So, if they had let them fight, then likely, that would have been an outbreak.
Yep.
So, kind of now it's going to make the Banzuke a bit of a mess, but good call.
Right. It was the right thing to do in the end, and they were able to get through 15 days, and presumably, we will find out, no one got COVID during the tournament. Like, in the tournament.
Yeah.
We will find out, though.
We'll
keep an eye on that.
It'll shake out, but for going in, we didn't know if we'd get through the tournament. We got through the tournament. It sounds like all of the safety procedures either worked or they were able to sweep everything under the rug, flip a coin as to what happened.
Yeah, and if we never know and everybody's healthy, great.
Sure.
Do what you gotta do.
They'll be in Osaka in March.
Which it hasn't been outside of Tokyo since COVID started. So this will be interesting. Osaka is a much smaller gymnasium, which is why they probably did it in Tokyo. But they still have the reduced crowd sizes, so it might not necessarily be a big deal. They might just have less people in than they would even typically for the number. Like, it won't be 5,000, maybe it'll be 4,000 or something like that.
Fingers crossed that works.
But, yeah. I mean, they know their territory better than us. But March is also when it starts to warm up a little bit. by the time you get to summer, hopefully,
We'll see.
We'll see how it all goes.
Health and safety above all. So,
yep.
Hopefully everybody just stays healthy. My last note written down is Ikkyoi. On the last day, sat out. He has not sat out a day.
It was over 1,000.
Over 1,000 days he sat out. So he was already Makakoshi near the bottom of Jiryo.
Headed down to the third division.
So the fact that he sat out the last day could mean that that's it for him.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride to see him fight through. I mean, if you saw how bandaged up he was, it was worse than usual.
Yeah.
And what finally sidelined him was a broken finger. So that just tells you, like, it's more than that.
More than that.
But to see a warrior go out there every day for over 1,000 days, it's unique. Probably will not happen again. And there is no one with a bigger fighting spirit heart than Ikkyoi.
Yeah, Ikkyoi gets to hang out with the Yoshikaze now. Two of them, the berserkers of old.
Yes, just ushering in a new time now. Hopefully he's... I heard he got elder stock, so...
Yeah, he'll be fine.
We'll be seeing him in the track jacket.
Yep.
Gotta love that track jacket.
Hanging out with Goedo and all the other people in the hallways. But, yeah, just worth calling out that... Another one of my personal favorites is now officially out, though. I mean, he was gone in body, but not in mind for a little while.
Yeah. Surprised he hung out that long.
Yeah, and that's January. It's going to be, the big question mark is going to be how they're going to handle this Banzuke. We're going to find out together.
So we're going to have quite a bit to talk about at the next show, which will be as soon as the Banzuke comes out.
Banzuke hits.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Congratulations again to Daieisho. Good to see.
Oh, one small note. Tsurugisho won the Juryo tournament, and he is in Daieisho's stable. So major party... Because that hasn't happened where top division guy and Juryo guy both won the tournament in the same stable since 2005. So even though it's COVID, they can at least have a cool stable party and party it up.
That Zoom meeting is going to be off the chain.
Oh, yeah.
Off the chain. Yeah, this was great sumo. Massive turbulence for all sorts of reasons. I'm glad we got through it. I'm also glad that we had a hell of a tournament to show for it as well. Yes,
and we'll be looking forward to Hakuho finally coming back in March.
Oh, so.
And, taking the whole lineup and just tossing it into the wind.
Oh, gosh. March is gonna be the weird one now.
The Stormy Basho.
Yeah, so that is all I got on my notes lists. Thank you for listening.
We'll catch you later.